viral news source.
Georgia alone.
All the data on who receives these loans is publicly available. We've been looking through it and looking at some of these companies that are registered with the Secretary of State and don't have an online presence. We wanted to find them and ask them a simple question.
If you committed fraud with those PPP loans, you are going to prison. Bottom line.
What does your company do? Turns out that wasn't so simple. I'm trying to reach Money Ain't a Problem Entertainment.
Oh, Alexa. Okay.
And of course, a ninja would name his company Money Ain't a Problem. You know you're going to jail with a company name like that.
Is that you?
No, it isn't. He's at work.
We went to this Gwinnett County home looking for a company that received more than $22,000 in federal Paycheck Protection Program payments. We couldn't find Money Ain't a Problem Entertainment registered with the Georgia Secretary of State.
What a ninja.
Or active online. He received a PPP loan and we can't.
After federal investigators said they fraudulently applied for and received funds from the
I think those are the two ninjas responsible for Money Ain't a Problem Entertainment.
Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP loans.
Bonds were set. They're being released. Nobody, as far as I know, is being detained. And we'll take it from there. We'll be back in court.
Attorney Brian Silver represents 3 of the defendants, some of whom have either been suspended or placed on leave pending the outcome of the investigation.
I can't comment on the nature of the case.
While the charging documents do not allege that any of the defendants committed the charged offenses in the course of their official duties, this does not in any way diminish the seriousness of what the defendants are alleged to have done here.
Sheriff Gregory Toney said he first learned of the crimes in November of 2021, prompting him to investigate all 5,500 of his employees.
If you committed fraud with those PPP loans and you stole money from the government, I can promise you, you're going to jail.
Including himself and other top brass. Of the 17 indicted, 7 BSO deputies and 1 sergeant in law enforcement, and 8 detention deputies and 1 sergeant in corrections.
They are in law enforcement and they stole PPP loan money. They're going to jail.
Hate to see that, knowing some of the individuals and seeing the names on that list that's being indicted, some of them were good officers. But you're only as good as the last act and conduct that you execute.
We learned the defendants involved received tens of thousands of dollars, and while the investigation has proved that some of whom were investigated did have legitimate businesses, at the very least, the 17 now facing federal charges allegedly did not.
If you're going to be participating in criminal activities, we don't want you in this profession.
Now, he's going to tell you that if you participated in those PPP loans, theft, taking the money, you're going to jail. Listen to him.
There's been a lot of new arrests last several weeks.
That's right.
On the PPP loan scam.
Lord, yes.
Quite a few people are getting that early morning knock on the door.
Yep.
Because they chose to not do the right thing. They chose to lie about their current business status. They didn't have a business, so there wasn't a status. But the FBI,
so when the PPP loans were going on during the pandemic, I had a few people say, hey, you can get a PPP loan. Yeah, I got such and such amount of money. And I looked at this one dude. I said, okay, so you understand that you are faking your business and you were essentially committing fraud, stealing from the government. And his response was, oh, they ain't going to know. They ain't never going to find out. Well, my friend, your name is probably on this list that's that the federal workers who are working the list to lock you up, your name is on that list. And if you stole from the PPP loan, if you stole from the government, you're going to jail. Don't believe me? Listen to him.
The feds are not gonna rest until they get a lot of these bad actors in custody, because it's serious. You know, when you robbing the federal government, you know, the system isn't perfect. The system will never be perfect. But they out there knocking on doors right now. So if you get that strange knock on the door and you look through your little Ring camera, and you see all these dark colored vehicles with the windows tinted, and you know you got that PPP loan, and you know you didn't have a business, you lied on your application, you fabricated everything. You fabricated everything except that information on your checking account where you were looking for that direct deposit. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh.
But with taxpayer money meant to help thousands of small business owners during the COVID pandemic. Instead, this amount went to a handful of drug dealers. And that's according to St. Pete police, who say these suspects used the loans to fund a major drug ring.
Well, I guess that's a small business if you are selling drugs. They invested the money back into their business. But yeah, you guys are in jail right now.
13's Aaron Mesmer live for us at St. Pete Police Headquarters. So what did you find out about this, Aaron?
Well, Cynthia, you heard that police spokesperson there right at the top of the show. She called this a different level of sophistication in this crime. These criminals are accused of figuring out how to file the paperwork, do it correctly, get the money that they wanted, use it to fund their drug ring, and then potentially keep it from business owners who desperately needed it. As she decorates cakes in her St. Pete bakery, Jill Whalen can't help but feel fortunate.
Because I had no money to go on.
She says the Small Business Administration's Payroll Protection Loan Program did what the government intended. It saved her store as COVID-19 devastated the economy.
I got to pay them the whole time we were closed. I paid all my bills, and everything was taken care of because of that. We would have been in serious trouble if we didn't get it.
Yeah. However, not everyone is as honest as Whalen. St. Pete police say they just arrested 3 criminals who cheated the system.
They knew the ins and outs, what they needed to say.
That one cat right there, he took part of that PPP loan and put them goals in his mouth. Them bottom goals, man. Good God.
The 3 criminals who cheated the system.
They knew.
And what is this? Hold up.
Whalen. St. Pete.
What is on this boy's face? What is that? I hope that's not like some type of new tattoo that you bought with the PPP loan money. Anyway, let's continue.
Police say they just arrested 3 criminals who cheated the system.
They knew the ins and outs, what they needed to say in order to get these loans, and then they just used them for whatever they wanted to.
Investigators say in this case, the money was used to help fund a major drug operation. Dante Payne, Russell Jones, and Kenneth Davis Jr. are all accused of applying for and receiving fraudulent SBA loans that were supposed to help real businesses stay afloat during the pandemic.
They were willing to take a step further and defraud financial institutions and take money from the federal government for these fake businesses and fake employees.
According to arrest documents, Payne claimed he owned a landscaping business that doesn't.
That kind of looks like a 4-leaf clover on his face. Who knows? But let's hear what his fake business was.
Fake employees.
According to arrest documents, Payne claimed he owned a landscaping business that doesn't exist and received about $21,000 to cover payroll and overhead expenses. We're told Davis got the same amount for his fake company, and Jones is accused of getting $9,500 to help with a non-existent barber shop. All 3 were arrested as part of a major drug roundup announced last week that sent about 30 suspected dealers and users to jail.
This was just pounds and pounds of marijuana, up to $100,000 worth of drugs a week.
Y'all guys saw this opportunity, and not just the guys that want to scream, but all of you people that participated in this PPP fraud loan scheme. You saw this opportunity and lost your mind, and you were so excited about getting the money and not thinking about Oh, well, my name is on this paperwork and it's going into my bank account and that's my signature on it. And you didn't think that, you know what, probably someone's going to find out. Really? Anyway.
In our community.
And for a lot of well-deserving people who have legitimate businesses, they ought to lock them up, throw away the keys.
Okay, so there's a warrant for your arrest. Okay.
No, I don't agree that they should lock them up and throw away the keys. I mean, after all, it's fraud, it's white collar crime. And if you can get a first offender status, right? No, they shouldn't throw away the keys. I mean, I would say arrange. I mean, I'm not a lawyer or anything, but I mean, they didn't kill anybody. They didn't use weapons. They signed papers and they stole money. Now that's a fact. So like this woman right here, does she look like she needs to be locked up and the key thrown away? No. I'd say between 1 to 10 years in probation for some. But I'm not the government and they've probably got different plans.
So that's what we're here for. So I would like to explain more to you and actually sit down and have a conversation with you.
They ought to lock them up, throw away the keys.
Okay, so there's a warrant for your arrest. Okay, so that's what we're here for. So I would like to explain more to you and actually sit down and have a conversation with you. But in the meantime, we do need to take you back with us. And because you have your mom on the phone, that's why I'm explaining this to you.
Wow. So the agents showed up to her doorstep, get her for her PPP loan fraud. What does that say? She got arrested for COVID-19 fraud 4 years later. My God.
So that she knows what's going on also. Okay.
Federal government going after PPP loan fraud big time. Arrest warrants issued, many people getting arrested. I had a friend of mine that told me during the pandemic that he was getting a loan, PPP loan. I said, man, you crazy. You got unemployment. Why would you want to do that? That's a scam. I didn't do it. So this guy was a Uber driver, and now he has to be careful. I looked it up. His name is on the list. I told that guy, you're not going to get away with it. Government will come after you.
Now, I don't know if there's really a list. I'm going to look to see. Some people said that there was. Some people said that there was not. But I'm going to look to see. And if there is, I'm going to post it.
Later.
Destiny? No, ma'am. Okay, is Destiny here? No, ma'am. Huh? What'd you say?
Your Destiny, right?
Would you mind if I just made a quick phone call? A phone call to who?
Listen, we just want to talk to you real quick. It's kind of weird when you're holding the door like crap.
Well, because they have the dogs and I just don't want
them. That's why we're asking. I don't want to get bit by a dog. That's why
just my comfort and like just for my own.
I can hang out here. We can hang out here. She just wants to talk to you.
Those officers have showed up armed, ready for the business, because you stole money from the government.
Okay, would you mind just for my own comfort?
That's a hammer time moment. That's hammer time.
And like this is not my home, and I could step out for you all. It's just odd that on a Wednesday that this is happening. I don't know what's going on.
Well, right.
No, I get it. I understand.
Okay.
I can't go to jail, Mom.
I understand.
So,
Destiny, you have to know. I don't know what's going on, but you can't fight it. Yeah.
September 13th, 2024. A woman named Destiny Harris gets a knock on her door from police with a warrant for her arrest for unemployment fraud that she allegedly committed 4 years ago. But let's take it back to 2020. In the wake of the COVID-19 outbreak, numerous Americans lost their jobs, resulting in a significant rise in unemployment applications. This also led to some people attempting to exploit the system for benefits they were not eligible for. A financial investigator with the Department of Economic Opportunity informs a detective in the city of Delray Beach that 4 people had reported they received unemployment claims by employees who were still currently employed. An investigation was then initiated. 3 months later, after all the information was collected on the claimants, their phone providers were issued subpoenas. Detectives find one of the claimants was victim of identity theft while the other 3 had filed for benefits themselves. Each employee was paid the minimum $275 a week and did not have hours reduced. Therefore, they were not eligible to file with DEO. Fast forward to December 2022, the detectives speak to each claimant over the phone and meet for an in-person interview. 2 of them all filed unemployment claims for themselves when they should not have been entitled to the benefits, but there was insufficient evidence to support a criminal charge for filing a fraudulent unemployment claim. As
Like all of them up.
Wow.
Oh my God. As neighbors in this Florida suburb sipped their morning coffee today, Josh Edwards was led away in handcuffs. His father, Evan, following soon after. According to a 6-count federal indictment, Josh Edwards lied on an application for a PPP loan back in April 2020 to keep the family's Christian ministry afloat during the pandemic. Asking for $6 million, the government approved a loan for $8 million. Edwards claimed there were nearly 500 employees and $2.7 million in payroll expenses. Both claims were false, according to prosecutors. Instead of setting up a ministry to help the poor, the Edwards tried to put a down payment on this $3 million house near Disney World. NBC News profiled the case back in June.
Including one Florida-based family ministry that received millions of taxpayer dollars to pay employees.
The Secret Service was on to the Edwards in September 2020. The loan application was signed off by an 88-year-old accountant suffering from dementia, and there were no signs of any employees at the ministry's office.
Florida, again with PPP loan indictment and arrest. This time of 17 Broward County police officers and detention center officers. Now, collectively, they got $495,171. They were first suspended with pay on October the 6th. For less than 6 days later, they said, hell to the no, we ain't paying y'all because hell.
PPP loan. Arrest.
Damn, bro.
Wow.
Gator going to jail, man. Damn. Damn, cuz.
Wow.
So here's an update from yesterday's post. I will be turning myself in, being that there's a warrant out for my arrest for doing the PPP loan. And I've talked to my family and they basically agreed that this will be best. So we'll see how this goes. So hopefully it won't be anything too crazy, but I have to deal with the consequences now.
Now, there's some late developments in the PPP.
Let's see her
loan.
again.
To deal with basically the PPP loan.
Damn. Damn, cuz.
Yup.
So here's an update.
Now, I wonder if that is his business.
Cuz.
It's a tire shop. I don't know, but they're locking them up. So evidently something ain't right.
So here's an update from yesterday's post. I will be turning myself in, being that there's a warrant out for my arrest for doing the PPP loan. And I've talked to my family and they basically agreed that this will be best. So we'll see how this goes. So hopefully it won't be anything too crazy, but I have to deal with the consequences now.
Well, she seems pretty calm for a person who could be possibly going to jail. So let's continue.
Anything too crazy, but I have to deal with the consequences now.
Now, there's some late developments in the PPP loan, scammers, arrests. The feds cracked down in 3 states a couple days ago, simultaneously. Caught a bunch of people off guard and took them into custody for scamming the government during the COVID-19 epidemic. The funds were earmarked for businesses, struggling businesses, but people who didn't have a business, who basically never worked a day in their life, they got a lot of money. Billions and billions of dollars they stole from the feds. Just stay tuned. We'll get more into that.
Hi, looking for LaDonna Wiggins. My name's Myra with ABC 13.
Wow.
Tuesday afternoon, we went to a home in Cypress that court.
Okay, you guys. So I just came across a link where you can put in a person's name to see if they got a PPP loan. So I'm going to tell you guys a quick story. There's this guy that I let work out with me that started acting crazy and threatening to kill me because he was just acting like a jealous little girl. And I told him, hey man, leave me alone. And so he didn't do that. And he threatened to kill me. So what I did, I'm not going to fist fight you. I'm too mature for that. Okay. I reported him to the PPP loan fraud department, to the FBI. And I just looked up on this site. I'm going to put the link to this site in here. And wow, his name came up and he got 2 loans for $20,000. And he is going to prison. That was my plan anyway. I was trying to get him 10 years at least. So hopefully, yeah, he's going to prison. Be careful who you offend or who you mess with, because they could cook you in a way that you don't even understand. Wow, he's got 2 loans. You know, I'll take a screenshot of this and put this into, yeah, and they're fraudulent. He told me that he did this. Be careful what you tell people, because if you create an enemy and then they have information that can harm you, you might be paying the piper in a different way. Let us continue. Yeah, I'll put the link to this in the description box below so you guys can see it.
Documents state 37-year-old LaDonna Wiggins purchased using money she received from the CARES Act. The document says Wiggins received about $3.7 million after submitting 2 PPP loan applications for businesses known as Wiggins and Grams Enterprises, LLC, and Pink Lady Line. The documents state she used the funds to make lavish personal purchases, this home allegedly being one of them. Hi, looking for LaDonna Wiggins? She's not here. She's not here? When someone finally came to the door, I asked this woman about the allegations that Wiggins supposedly purchased 2 homes using federal funds meant for business use. This house and apparently a house for her mom. Is that you?
No.
You're not her mother?
No.
The court documents go on to mention
employees of Chicago Public Schools have been investigated for pandemic relief fraud, with 12 of them having resigned or been fired.
All but one of them made an annual CPS salary of at least $100,000 a year. CPS's Inspector General says that the employees received up to $21,000 in Paycheck Protection Programs and loans under false pretenses. Some of them pretended to be self-employed and others invented fake businesses. The highest ranking of them is Crystal Cooper, who was the head of school ops and made $220,000 a year. Termination proceedings have begun against the remaining 2 employees. Nationwide, 3.7 million people are suspected of PPP fraud.
Viral news source.